Hola! Welcome to another episode of Podcast Beyond. I am your host, Games Editorial Manager Jeremy Dunham, and today I am joined by Editor-in-Chief of the PlayStation team, Chris Roper.
What is up?
Editor Jeff Haynes.
Full of flavor.
And Associate Editor Ryan Clements.
Yo.
Now, the reason, originally Greg was supposed to join us today, but there's a reason he didn't make it. Chris, could you kind of touch on what happened there?
So, Greg went to the SmackDown pay-per-view this weekend in Washington, D.C., and then I guess his flight was at like 5 o'clock in the morning. And I guess his phone died, and so if his flight's at 5, he'd skip at like 3 or whatever it was. Phone died, missed his alarm, and now he's waiting for a flight. I guess the next one with an empty seat was tonight. So he's sitting there in the airport working from there on their handy dandy wireless connection over there. So he's stuck in Dulles International, wherever he is.
I think the moral of the story is to call the front desk and ask for a wake up call.
Yeah.
Beyond.
Well, with Greg's little mess out of the way, it's time for the Roper Report.
Time for some news.
So a lot of this is updates on when games are coming out. So real fast, Burnout has gotten a solid release date of January 22nd, 2008, obviously. And along with that, there is a demo coming. The date, whether it's going to be before or after the game, is unannounced, although it was part of the press release, so I would kind of assume that's coming out before the game releases, but TBD on when that's coming out. Assassin's Creed has gone gold, so it is going to hit its November 13th release date, or 12th, whenever it ships. There's going to be an Uncharted demo at some point in November.
Yay!
So that's good news. Gran Turismo 5 Prologue is set to release in Japan next month on the 13th, I believe. We're not in November, so December 13th. And they've announced that a PlayStation 3 version of the G25 cool as hell Logitech racing wheel with the shifter and whatnot will launch alongside that. So it's the same thing that's out on the PC, which already works on the PS3, except that this one has PlayStation 3 specific buttons on it. So if you don't have the wheel and or we're looking to get that one because it's got the better buttons on it, and we'll assume that's going to hit in the US at some point too.
Very good.
And then finally, MotorStorm 3.0 update is coming that adds Rumble to the game. So if you get the new DualShock 3,
so if you want to pretend for a while, the actual controllers come out.
just shake your hands.
Oh god.
And
so real.
That's all the news.
That's the news. Also, there's a whole bunch of games coming out this week. You have Stranglehold and
Stranglehold's finally shipping for PS3.
What else is coming out?
Tons of stuff. I don't have the thing in front of me. Yeah.
All right.
You handle the release dates.
Manhunt
You know better than me.
Don't
Manhunt
forget,
2
it's a
comes
very
out.
large release coming out this week.
Disgaea Portable.
Yep. Afternoon of Darkness.
Yes.
Which I think it's a great subtitle.
Yeah.
The subject this week, folks, and first of all, let me say thank you for filling in for me last week, Chris. I know you're here every week anyway, but
I forgot to point this out, even though I had mentioned it right beforehand. I am the last remaining survivor of the podcast that has been here every single episode.
That's right.
So therefore, I win the $1 million.
There you go. Originally, you and I had been the only ones that make it every episode, but what can you do?
Yeah.
I can't do anything.
Exactly.
Except for get sick.
Bingo.
I really was sick, by the way. I heard the intro to your podcast. I heard he is sick playing Ratchet and Clank.
But you were playing Ratchet and Clank too, right?
Yeah. So, man, that day was miserable for me. Because I had played it all throughout the weekend and throughout the previous week, but I wanted to make sure that I beat the game before I reviewed it. So as I was playing it on Sunday, I actually, hacking and wheezing, actually didn't go to sleep all night playing it. So I started writing the review the morning of Monday, and I hadn't gone to sleep yet. So by the time I finally went to sleep that day, I'd been up for 40 hours. Mm-hmm. It'd been a long time. And plus, I was sick. On top of that, my whole household was sick.
You were insane.
I was not in a good mood by the time the day was over.
Okay, eat your flu shot, man.
That's right. Well, it wasn't the flu.
Oh,
so that was fine. It was just regular cold, just gone awry. I think it's because I never slept. I think that's probably part of the
that will do it.
Part of the reason. But this week's topic is actually based on a lot of the feedback I've seen from the episode that I wasn't in last week, which is the PlayStation 3 in its current state, and it gave me a little bit of an idea of saying, okay, well, if everyone thinks that the PlayStation team is too critical of Sony's PlayStation 3, and what would they do to ensure that 2008 is the year for PlayStation 3? So that's today's topic. It's to look at the three of you and say, what would you do to make sure that next year is the year that the PlayStation 3 can be successful? So we'll start with Chris, who's leading the team here. Chris, what do you think is the number one focus that Sony needs to to be aware of next year?
I think absolutely they need to give better support to third-party developers. I mean, you look at a lot of EA's ports, and the games just don't run as well. And everybody's saying everything's going to come together in the future, and ports will be closer or whatever. But I mean, up to this point, most games that have come out are better on the 360. They run better. Some of them look better, et cetera, et cetera. There's more downloadable content for those games, and but then you look at games that are PlayStation 3 specific, first party games, games that are made specifically for the system, like Resistance or Ratchet and Clank or Uncharted or Gran Turismo. Any of those games look fantastic. They all run extremely well. Then you look at some of the third party ports and they're not doing all that great. Sony needs to, and clearly all these guys are getting help from Sony, and some of them are just very experienced. Sony needs to step up and say, let us help you. Let us give you some tools. Let us make sure that you guys are working correctly. Do you have any questions? Let us help you get ports running up to look at least as good, if not better, on the PS3 than the 360. I think that's a huge thing, because right now, all these other things you can say, PS3 is going to have MGS4, and you need to lower the price or whatever, but the one thing you can compare to directly is a game. And if it runs worse in the PS3, then the whole system looks worse. So they need to clear that up.
Do you guys agree with that, or do you think there's something else that Sony needs to focus on next year?
No, I think that's probably one of the largest pieces of the puzzle. I mean, obviously, the third-party support is going to be critical, especially with everybody else. Like almost every week you get a developer going off or a rumor thread going off about it, somebody saying, oh my god, it's so hard to develop for this thing, or that's one of the reasons why we use the 360 as a lead development platform for the system itself. So I think third-party support is a definite key. I think one of the other parts of it too is that they also need to constantly deliver more content to the system. I mean, one of the things that we always hear is, there's barely anything to play for this thing, and maybe part of that could be
Is that true? Do you think that there is? Because that I think is one of the biggest myths in our industry, is that there's nothing to play. I think the big disconnect is the fact that there is a lot to play for it. You have 80 plus games coming out this year. Mm-hmm. The issue is that a lot of those games are playable elsewhere.
Exactly.
And in a lot of cases they come out for somewhere else.
Right. So but those, you have to remember, I think that's the big problem with a lot of the people in our industry, including ourselves, what we forget when we're talking about the PlayStation 3. Not everyone's a multi-console gamer. Yeah. PS3 owners aren't looking at the Xbox 360 if they already have a PS3 and saying, oh, well, Stranglehold came out there, I guess I shouldn't buy it today. They're looking at today and saying, Stranglehold's coming out today, I should buy that.
Right.
And I think that's probably the big disconnect, where you have people saying that there is nothing coming out as opposed to there is. It's just playable elsewhere. And, I think that's something everyone forgets and that they shouldn't.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I think that, part of that is just like a perceptional thing that some people have to deal with. But I think that one of the other parts of it is that there are elements kind of like what Chris was saying, with the online space that they really could be taking a lot better advantage of. I mean,
you mean PSN?
PSN completely. I mean,
I agree with you there.
Obviously, the amount of content that's downloadable on the system is severely lacking, especially compared to 360 and ostensibly Wii. A lot of the things that they could be doing, especially considering that Japan has a lot more content on their stores. The UK at times will get things that are a little bit different than ours. Even just to put down the whole thing of oh my god, there's no games for those people that do think about it. It's like, well, you know what? We also do have other things that we're rolling out to you, or we have all these other systems that we're bringing up, or we're updating our connectivity so that if you want to make friends and easily pull in a friends list or have cross media bar support or do all these other things that the system was supposedly touted to be able to do really easily and quickly. I think that's when they need to start bringing it in, is 2008, the beginning of 2008, whether it times out with home so that it's tied into this new PSN 2.0 phase that they're trying to go into, or if it's just the launch leading up to the home release. I think they really need to take advantage of that online system that they're doing, especially since the biggest selling point is that it's free.
Ryan, how important is backwards compatibility next year? A lot of people, there are a lot of arguments on our message boards and in our mailbags complaining that maybe you guys are a little too harsh on the fact that the new system isn't backwards compatible, but you have just as many people saying it is important.
Yeah.
So where do you stand? How important do you think it is in terms of the long term and actually selling systems?
To me, it's always important just because I don't have my PlayStation 2 set up with next to my entertainment center, Like I have my Wii, Xbox 360, and the PS3. But I don't have like my older system set up to my HD TV. So if I want to play my old games, I have to like basically. Hopefully they are compatible with the PS3. It'll upscale to the TV. It looks really nice, and there's no problem. So for me, I like the fact that I have a PS3 model that's backwards compatible, and I think it really just depends on the person. I mean, some people, they have their PS2 sitting right there. They can just grab it and throw an old game in, and some people don't have one, and they need the PS3 to be backwards compatible.
But as a market, what do you think the market as a whole would... How much of an effect do you think it has?
I think it's beneficial to have backwards compatibility. I don't see why that wouldn't be a good thing, to be tapping into those gigantic, massive pools of old titles that people can play and just pick up. So I'm really surprised.
One of the Wii's best features is being able to go back and play all those virtual console games from throughout Nintendo's history.
That's actually the Wii. That's actually my favorite part of the Wii. Like that is my favorite part of owning that console, because you can just pay a few dollars and play this gigantic mass of games that I missed out on.
Yeah, but the difference there, though, is you have to buy all those games over again. GameCube games will just work, but if you're going to play Nintendo, Super Nintendo, 64, whatever, you have to go buy them again, even if you own them. And on the PS3, if you have a system that's backwards compatible, you can play PS2 and PS1 games by just chucking them in the drive.
Do you think maybe this is a forward-thinking strategy by Sony that maybe people haven't thought of yet, saying, let's get rid of out-of-the-box compatibility for PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 1. That way we can take a Wii stance in 2008 and beyond and only allow you to play downloadable
I didn't think about
PlayStation
that.
1 and 2
That's
games.
A good point.
That way they can make more money. You still get your backwards compatibility. You just have to buy the games over again.
So they might release like actual PS1 and PS2 games for purchase on the downloadable.
It's just a theory. What if that's the type of stance they're taking? Do you think that's possible?
I think it's possible, but I have a feeling that's probably some marketing ploy that's designed by people trying to find some way of recouping a loss on the investment. I mean, I think that one of the things, especially now that people have gotten used to the idea of backwards compatibility as a feature for hardware, the days of like buying a system and then going, well, I'm never going to play all these games all over again, and might as well just throw them away or sell them back, is kind of like gone away. So then to have companies start to phase away from that situation and get that idea out of the consumer mindset when they've gotten used to being able to hold on to a game library and use it if they so choose is kind of is pretty disappointing. I mean, obviously, if some people decide that that's the way that the industry is going to go, we're just going to have to suck it up and deal with it. But it really is kind of a distancing thing to a lot of your initial, first day hardcore consumers that are really interested in being evangelists for your product for the long haul.
Chris, if you were in charge of Sony for a few months, what would you do in terms of their marketing campaign? What would you think would be the primary thing, the message they need to get out there to people? And how would you turn around the current perception within the industry that they're going nowhere?
Well, one of the things is they need to show more. They need to show more games. I mean, I see Xbox 360 ads on TV all the time. Granted, I don't watch a whole lot of TV, but when I turn it on, I see ads left and right, and they show games on there. And the PS3 ads are few and far between from what I've seen, and they don't really show all the games that well, and they'll show like just one game, and the 360 ads will show a bunch of them in some cases. And there's a lot of third-party ads will show their game, and then at the end they'll just flash the 360 logo, and you're like, oh, if I want to play that game, the consumer doesn't know anything, will say, I have to own a 360.
I'll jump in.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, Sony really needs to broaden their advertising campaign, spend some money to earn some money, and make sure you show off the games, make sure you show stuff that's coming out later on to say, hey, down the future you're going to get this. I mean, the PS2 advertising campaigns were great. It's one of the reasons the system did so well, and that just has not happened with the PS3.
PS1 had a great advertising campaign too.
Yeah, it did. You Are Not Ready and all that. Yeah.
Something I want to add in regards to that, I would love to see them do like just spend a decent amount of money, if not a lot of money, directing like this really fantastic commercial, and then kind of temporarily flood, television and radio and stuff with that commercial, because I still remember. And then if anyone actually has this like on their computer and knows where you can find it online, because I've always wanted to see this commercial again, and I've only seen it once in my entire life, and maybe you guys have seen it. Didn't bring it up yet. I think it was a PS2 commercial, although it might have been a PS1 commercial. No, okay. That was a good one. This one, like, apparently no one has ever seen before except me. So,
well, apparently because no one knows what it is.
Yeah,
tell us what it is.
I'm building it up. All right, anyway. the entire commercial basically follows this one guy as he's walking through a city, and throughout the entire commercial, and it really does build a great sense of time, there's all these signs that he's seeing that something terrible is about to happen. Like there's this like kind of madman like raving on the streets, like talking about the end, and he keeps seeing like chalk drawings like with like things falling, and like he keeps seeing this flash of red. Like the most of the world is kind of a gray wash monochrome, and he's following this like flash of red, and it turns out to be a balloon. And like he keeps following, and he starts walking faster and faster through the city, and finally
then at the end, Bruce Willis dies.
No. You shut up. and then it turns out to be this little girl holding a red balloon, and it's like it's the biggest burst of color on the screen. And then finally, like he just starts running towards her, and right as he like gets towards her, you see up on the building like this gargoyle from like a nearby building like cracks off and like falls, and he dives and pushes her out of the way, and it like smashes to the ground, and the balloon just floats up.
Sounds like the most intense Skittles commercial I've ever heard of.
Yeah, it's extremely intense. He just like looks up. There's just a quick like pan across of her and the girl like making eye contact, and then it shows the live in your world, play in ours, and that's it. And it was just an awesome commercial. I've never seen it again. I only saw it that one time on TV.
Children nightmares.
It was intense.
Terribly frightening.
The laughing, crying baby commercial for the PS3 gave me nightmares. Not this one. This one was just cool.
But even that commercial like was so few and far between. Like on
Did you see it?
Yeah, I finally saw the
no, not the baby one.
There's no way in hell I know what commercial you were talking about.
But someone will. Hopefully, I'll get an email saying at least one other person saw that commercial.
But I think Chris is right. I mean, just looking at football this weekend, I saw more of that new Microsoft like jump in commercial with people parachuting in and dropping a television down on a sidewalk with like Mass Effect and Halo and BioShock than I think I saw anything Sony related. I think the only Sony related commercial I saw this entire weekend was one of those dude get your own PSP commercials.
And that's something they've actually been really aggressive with.
Right. And I think that, if you're going to be that aggressive with the PSP, why are you not being that aggressive with your big console? I mean, this is obviously the thing that they're pushing for. They're trying to sink so much attention to because it's supposed to be the most powerful gaming system on the planet, PC notwithstanding. And yet you rarely ever see a commercial for it unless it's either a first party commercial and it's that white box room setup, and those things only come out like for maybe a week and a half, and then they disappear.
It's kind of puzzling, isn't it?
It's odd
how few PSP games are actually slated for between now and the end of the year compared to PS3 games. Or actually, I think PS3 has a slight advantage almost, and we're barely seeing any commercials for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you will see like that Star Wars Battlefront PSP commercial all the time. I mean, that's heavy rotation, and it's in places that you might not even necessarily expect. I mean, like during football games, you'll see that, or baseball games, or other different things. It's really odd how the priority has kind of shifted more to the handheld than the actual console.
They are doing some things that I think are going to be effective for this year, though, not necessarily for 08. At the beginning of the year, I wrote an article called PlayStation Predictions, and one of them was a great way to sell units would have been to pack in the Spider-Man 3 Blu-ray with
my idea.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, and one of the great things that would work and sell units, and what happened, they actually did that, and I think that's going to help get people's attention on the system this year.
Although, too bad Spider-Man 3 sucks.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's before we'd seen
Dance
the movie.
break.
Yeah.
But I think that with that sort of campaign, that's the sort of creative stuff that they need to do to move units. It's not going to be enough this year, though, because obviously I think with Halo and Mass Effect and Super Mario Galaxy, they've got the IP brand recognition a little bit higher than anybody else. So, one last thing before we go on to Reader Mail.
Reader Mail?
Not yet.
Hey.
In 2008, this time next year, where's Sony going to stand if they become more aggressive on marketing and they try their best to actually get PlayStation Edge out there, push the third-party development side, and really just try to push that brand? Where will they stand 1 year from now?
And they bring back the falling gargoyle on the little girl with the red balloon commercial.
There you go.
I think the best that Sony can do realistically is be about tied with the 360 at this point. I mean, MGS4 is going to help a lot. We'll should have heard more about Final Fantasy 13 by next time if it's not out.
I don't think you're going to see 13 next year. I really
don't.
No,
but I mean, at least have heard more about it, so you'll get that hype going on for it.
Yeah.
and more games will come out. Hopefully, like another Resistance title or something will be around there. Killzone 2 will have been out to help sales, all that kind of stuff, and then hopefully the big games that are cross-platform look at least as good, if not better, on the PS3 for Sony's sake, like GTA 4. That's a huge one. If GTA 4 comes out and is noticeably better on the 360, it runs better, or the content's better, or whatever, then that's gonna be hurtful. But if you can say the PS3 one runs better, or looks just as good, or whatever, that'll be nice. If you have all those things lining up, then Microsoft had a lot of their big games this year. Halo 3 is behind us now. I mean, obviously it's still helping sales now, but next year, who knows what it's going to do. Sony may be able to start catching up, but I don't think that by this time next year they're not going to be like dominating or anything. I think their goal at this point is to get even.
I think there's a legitimate shot that Sony could actually take second place worldwide. They can't give the Xbox 360s away in Japan.
Yeah.
So they've got a real shot at gaining some ground there. And Europe has always been a very Sony-heavy area. And even though Xbox 360 has taken off very well there, the PlayStation 3 sales have been rather strong, particularly in the UK. So we'll see if maybe they can bring. I agree with you. I think that they do have a shot at pulling even. And they do have a lot of high-end games coming with Metal Gear and Killzone and Burnout. And Burnout, believe it or not, folks, is a lead platform on the PlayStation 3 instead of the Xbox 360, which is something you don't see that often, at least in the modern.
As a side note,
climate.
now that Burnout is shipping, I hope that Criterion talks about Black 2 soon.
Yeah, you'd hope that'd be next.
I really hope so. I love the first game. I want to see a sequel.
Again, just to reiterate, you heard it here, 4th or 5th, folks. I don't think Final Fantasy will make it next year. Let's get to reader mail.
Reader mail. Cool.
J.H. Lennon 1. I wonder if that's John Lennon's ghost.
Oh.
Wants to know who'll be reviewing Uncharted Drake's Fortune, Chris.
Greg is.
Why?
Because he deserves to review good games every once in a while.
There you go. Wingfan191 wants to know, and I don't know if this has been made official yet, if we can talk about it. We can't. So if we can't, just say so. Will the Guitar Hero 3 guitars work with Rock Band, and will the Rock Band guitars work with Guitar Hero 3? We need final confirmation.
All of this is already out. We haven't had an in-house build of Rock Band on the PS3 yet. The only time that I think anybody's ever seen the PS3 one was the event in Canada a couple weeks back. But on the 360 at least, the Rock Band guitar does not work with Guitar Hero 3. The Guitar Hero 3 controller seems to work perfectly fine with Rock Band. So
there you go.
There it is.
Nafai1234 wants to know why you guys were being so pessimistic last week regarding the PS3. You didn't even mention that the 40 gig announcement is actually a positive thing.
We mentioned that.
Not according to Nafai.
We mentioned
Well,
that it could possibly sell more systems, which could be a good thing, but
Yeah. No, we had a lot of positive things to say, and we also had a lot of negative things.
mixed
Some people
feelings.
heard all negative, some people heard all positive. So
How about giving us some optimism going into the holiday season? That's what we want to hear on a PS3 podcast, not the same hate spewed in almost every other area of the boards and media. Come on, guys. I disagree with you there, Nafai. I'd say that you'd want the truth above hype and optimism.
Yes.
And that's what we try to give you.
if you want some optimism, Uncharted looks really, really good.
Yep, and
So-
Ratchet and Clank is very, very good. So
Yeah,
there you go.
so there you go.
DX Death Sight says, sup.
Sup?
Sup. And wants to know what our take is on the discussion about lazy developers, air quotes, and the PS3 being hard to develop for.
Well, okay, so
I love how ticked off Jeff gets whenever that term comes up. You can just see him boiling with rage.
what, lazy developers?
Yeah. No, the hard to develop for line.
Oh.
yeah. So here's the thing. I think that people that aren't putting enough effort into a PS3 port are doing a system a disservice. Having said that, though, any port is going to take a certain amount of manpower, which therefore costs money. And if somebody says there's only X number of systems out there, we're only going to sell this many copies, and we're not going to recoup a team of 15 to make the port. We can only afford 5 dudes to make back that much money, and so it's not going to be quite as good. Then that makes sense from a business standpoint. I really do think that they should be trying harder and putting more money towards it, because it's going to help everybody in the long run if they're selling more games on the PS3s. But it's
One company I think really deserves to be called out, which bothers me, is Activision and their PlayStation 3 ports. 1 year later, after the systems come out, they have yet to put voice chat in their PlayStation 3 ports, which is baffling to me. I don't understand why you don't continue just to put that. That's been a standard in PS2 games for years.
Yeah.
Why not put it in the PS3 titles as well? It's just sort of strange that it's not a consistent thing, that you're not seeing the exact same voice chat support that you see in the 360 games that you see PS3.
Yeah.
QQQ Kwasai says that we've heard way too many Jeff impressions. By the way, Kwasai, there are never too many Jeff impressions. How about you guys do impressions of everyone else and see who comes the closest to Jeff Haynes? I don't know what that means.
What?
Wait, what?
It says whoever comes the closest to Jeff Haynes. I guess
By doing somebody
by
else?
saying,
I
see
see.
how well you can come close to their voice as close as we come to Jeff's voice. I
Right.
think.
I see.
That's
Jeff's voice
interesting.
is easy to do.
Yeah.
You just get raspy, you get low, and you're there.
Yeah.
All right, so go
Raspy.
ahead. You guys have your shot.
Get
Pick somebody
raspy
and go.
Get low.
I can do Roper. Roper's like, do it.
Yeah, but
That's a little bit of Fran right there. I mean,
that's me doing Fran.
that's
That's right.
Roper
But
doing
that,
Fran.
eventually, over time, that became one of your
Yeah,
one
but
of your things because you were doing Fran impressions so much.
But I don't do that anymore, though.
Anybody want to give it a try, or do you just want to do more great Jeff impressions?
Jeff impressions are way easier because nobody else really stands out. Nobody else has like that characteristic that you can easily hit.
That's right.
Bring
You
it.
know? So,
Bring it.
There you go. All right.
Was that Jeff again? I don't know. Who was it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Spock the real Jeff. See if you can do it. Perina Mulick wants to know if we think if Assassin's Creed has the potential to be another lair type fiasco, or will it be any good?
I think it's gonna be
I
good.
don't think it's going to be Lair. I think it's definitely going to be a lot better than that. It definitely showed a lot of promise. Both times that we've seen it in recent history.
Now, I don't know if it's. I haven't played it. I've seen it at events. I haven't been in one of the hands-on events. I'm under the impression that it possibly could just be okay. It could be also really good. I don't think it's gonna be bad though. I think it's gonna be a worthy playthrough, if not really, really good. But we'll see.
We'll find out soon. Apparently,
Yeah.
we get our hands on review builds rather soon. So
Yeah, very soon,
When that
apparently.
happens, we'll be able to tell you.
Yep.
Jeff Ramsrup, constant contributor to our question and answer period, wants to know if I can do
for Greg. Ramsaroo?
wants to know if I can do an impression of Dr. Claw. Yes, I can. And also wants to know if
I think he wants to hear it too.
I was talking about Inspector Gadget last night.
oh, were you?
I don't know why, but I brought up something about duos, and I was like, does Inspector Gadget and Dr. Claw count as a duo?
No,
but
because
then
they're
not really
enemies.
because
But Inspector Gadget and Penny.
But there are enemies that are duos, like Itchy and Scratchy.
That's true.
Yeah.
But it wasn't Inspector Gadget and Dr. Claw, or meets Dr. Claw.
No, but I think the differentiating thing there is they're not always together. They're actually never in the same place.
And you never saw Dr. Claw's face. You can't
Yeah.
really get behind someone whose only body part you ever see is their arm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, also wants to know about the Getaway PS3. It's been shown at GDC now in tech video form and several E3s, but we've never really seen any gameplay. Are we going to see it anytime soon? We didn't mention it in our upcoming games of 2008 a few episodes back.
It's because we don't know when it's coming out.
And actually, we did mention it.
Yeah. But I think it's right there on the wall somewhere.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's
there
still
it is.
there.
It's
Yep.
still there.
You know what I think it is? I think the team is working on getting their tech down. From what we've seen so far, it looks super, super good. And they're working on gameplay. And I think that what they're going to do is kind of... Because if I remember right, the first game took forever to come out. And I think they're going to kind of wait till they're like, okay, we're now 6 months, and we know we're coming out in 6 months. And then now here's the game.
I have a few doubts that game's going to end up being very pretty and cinematic, but my issue
Yeah.
with that series has always been that they always place presentation above everything else.
Yeah.
And actually having fun with it in the later levels just
It falls apart.
hasn't been there for me. Yeah,
Yeah,
it does fall apart.
Like the ability to have so much of London is an incredible technical feat, but the story's always been pretty much weak with whichever game it happens to be, either on the PS2 or the PSP. So you kind of just go like, well, obviously you're using it as a showpiece to make
more
sure
of
that
a
you
tech,
can,
yeah.
to show off that you can replicate life in London. But
It's like Sony's
will the
version
story
of
be
True
there?
Crime. Yeah, that's what it sort of reminds me of. But yeah, I think that's one of the reasons we're not too excited about it is because in the past we haven't exactly been blown away by those games. I know it's really big in the UK, though. They sell a lot there. It's a really popular series there, so we'll see where that goes. Wow, I totally didn't highlight anything on that page, so there.
Whoops.
Take that, everyone on that page. Miggy13 has a question for us, wants to know the following. I have never played a Ratchet game before, and I'm curious to try the next one out considering the score that you guys gave it. I remember it in a previous podcast Beyond, or maybe a Game Scoop, you
Yep.
commented that you would give BioShock a 9.1 or 9.2. No, 9.0 or 9.1. And while I realize these games are on different platforms and genres, I thoroughly enjoyed BioShock, and I'm curious if you are, or the entire cast believe that Ratchet and Clank is a quality title on the Game of the Year level. I can tell you that it's definitely, for me, my favorite game so far this year, and I have played and beaten Halo 3 and BioShock and just about every other high-profile game this year. I haven't finished Metroid Prime 3 yet, though. I'm still in the middle of that one. I got busy. I didn't get a chance to finish that one. But it's my favorite game so far this year.
I'm not nearly far enough to tell you whether or not it's overall Game of the Year candidate worthy or whatever, but I can definitely see from where I'm at, I can definitely see it getting to that point. So far the game's been super fun. It's been really engaging. It looks great.
It looks fantastic.
Yeah. So I mean, it's if you're on the fence about whether you should buy it or not, you absolutely go get it.
Yeah, and what's great about the story is if you've never played any of the Ratchet and Clank games before, it doesn't matter. They've told us, actually that's always been the strength of the series. You don't have to have played the earlier games to be able to jump in and enjoy yourself here, because the way they structure the story, it's always self-contained. There's a little bit of extra richness you can get from having played in the earlier games. They've got a few nods to other characters in the previous titles, but for the most part it stands alone, and I had a great time playing it, and I'm having a great time playing through it again a second time because you can get extra weapons and there's a couple of fun little things in there. This comes from Stone Cold. Not Stone Cold, but Stone Cold. Wants to know if Sony's forgotten all about Hot Shots Golf 5, or are they strategically placing the game beyond the holiday season?
The latter. The game's still definitely coming. It's got a lot of people are interested in the game. It's going to be really good. The demo's great fun. They're just, I think they're, why put up a golf game that's not coming out anytime soon? Why do like a media blitz on a golf game when you've got games like Halo and all that kind of stuff coming out? Just wait till it calms down and say, hey, check it out. We've got some fun for you. And,
Yeah, so. It seems to me like it'd be a strong Q1 contender.
Yeah.
Something to buy then. Sean9986 wants to know why we think the PS3 won't be able to move out of third place this year. Especially given the strong games coming up like Ratchet and Clank that came out last week, but comes out this week worldwide, and also, or I should say, nationwide in all major retailers as opposed to a select few, and Uncharted and all those other games.
Well, I don't think a lot of those games will be maybe they might bump people over the edge, but they're not the Halo caliber to make people that don't know really much about games go get it. But Sony would have to sell a lot of systems in the next 2 months to come up to second. I mean, they're
about 6 million behind 360 right now.
6 million, whatever number that is, like 5, 6, 7 million sales in 2 months is crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's not going to happen.
And then even to tie, they'd have to sell that many units and have Microsoft sell 0.
Yeah.
So it's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
The Toke Man, that's nice, wants to know whose leg he has to hump to get Jeff to stop saying time for some news.
Good luck. It's never happening. Keep choking.
I would disagree. That Jeff says and says you have to hump Jeff's leg.
I think that
I
might
got a
do
baseball bat and a gun.
If he started humping your leg,
I'd shoot him.
It would discourage you from saying
No,
it.
I just shoot him.
Thorjarl wants to know that when we review games, Ryan, do you play them all the way through before reviewing it? And is there a game you just couldn't beat? This question is for all of you, but I'm directing it towards Ryan because he's the slowest reviewer here.
Beyond?
What? Crazy. With the big
No, it's cool. Hey, how's that Nomad review
Soul
coming?
Mad?
Soul Mad, yeah.
It's done. It's going up soon.
All right, cool.
Yeah. All my high profile reviews are always on time. The other ones that I sometimes slip up on, that's my own fault. I'm getting better.
Answer the question.
This is the policy that all of us discuss is stuff that I can talk about to the public, right?
Uh-huh.
How our views on that.
Well, here, let me hit the policy, and then you can reiterate from there. Our policy is you play a game until you're ready to review it. Sometimes games need to be beaten in order to be reviewed. RPGs I'm a big supporter of because things change so much in RPGs. You really need to find out where the story's going. Other games like puzzlers, it doesn't matter. You can't really beat a puzzle game unless it's something like Puzzle Quest, which actually has an ending. But it's very different. It's a game by game basis, so you never know how much you need to play before you beat it. It's really up to you. You have to feel prepared to do it. Some games are just too long to beat, especially with our schedules.
Right.
But
or they don't
take it from there.
technically
I just want to make sure that was all. Yeah, that's basically exactly how I feel on it. If I will play a game, and as soon as I hit that point, we're like, boom, 100%. No matter what happens after this, it's not like going to change my opinion of the game. That's when I write the review. That very well could be at the end of the game when I've beaten it. It could be, a big chunk of the way through. It just really depends on the game and what my confidence level is on.
You also have games that beating it once isn't enough. For instance, if you complete one season of Madden, that's not necessarily everything that
Nowhere
there is to
near
see.
enough.
So it's really a game-by-game basis. And when you're seasoned and you've done this a lot, you can actually feel when you're ready to review a game. You can say, okay, this is enough. Now I know exactly what this game offers. It's time to review it. So.
Yeah, especially if it also happens to be one of those things that comes out like you were saying, like a Madden, where it's a sports franchise, or it's one of those things that has a lot of installments, and you know exactly like how the developers are trying to like position something so that you get the most out of whatever the title is.
Rogue Leader.
Stay on target.
There you go. Wants to know if we'll ever see a developer try to do a Western-style RPG specifically for the PS3.
Maybe.
I don't see why not.
Well, Last Remnant from Square Enix. That may be a cross-platform game, but PS3 is the lead platform, and it's a Western-style RPG.
What? Isn't that an Eastern style, though?
Yeah. No, it's Western style.
I thought that he was asking, or she was asking for if it's
Not cowboy hats and guns and spurs. No.
no,
Right,
that's
no,
not
it's
what
not
I'm
like
saying.
Wild Arms 3.
No, an American developer. I thought that's what they were trying to say.
It just says a developer.
Okay,
To do a Western-style RPG.
Okay.
Last Remnant from Square Enix is a good example. They are very focused on getting the Western market into that game. That's why they've designed specific characters just to cater to that area, and we'll see. Time will tell. Unless you're Ryan.
Thanks.
Then you have a balloon.
So Singlow wants to know, hey, now that we have a full version of Uncharted, what's better, it or Ratchet and Clank? We don't have a full version of Uncharted. But we will soon, right?
Yeah.
It's coming shortly.
Yeah. Well,
This week, next week, soon?
Something like that, yeah.
Sometime before it comes out. How's that? 2779 says that on the PS3 General Board, people believe that if a game isn't innovative, it doesn't warrant a high score. I.e., Ratchet and Clank Future Tales of Destruction doesn't do anything new, so the score is too high in their opinion.
Jaded.
What's your stance on the innovative requirement for next-gen games? For them to be highly rated, do they have to be super innovative? No.
I don't think so. They just need to be really fun.
Every time you go see a movie, do you have to say that this has to be completely different than anything I've ever seen before in order for it to be good? No. I think that constantly expecting innovation is fine. You want things to progress and you want them to go in an upward direction. But to always hold something to a standard that says that this is not a good game unless it does something different, I think is a mistake. Mm-hmm. Because some of the best games you'll ever play are refinements on titles that came before them. Gran Turismo 3 A-Spec is a great example in the Gran Turismo series. Ratchet and Clank Future. It's another great example since you brought it up. It's the fourth game in the the fifth game in the console series. And it does everything that those other titles did much, much better. So.
And part of it also has to do with like expectation too. I mean, there's one thing where you have a lot of people just going, well, this system should be doing so much better, or you have fanboys of like 360 or Wii going, why aren't your visuals any better than this one? Obviously, your system isn't that good because it's not blowing anybody out of the water with the titles that they have on it. And I think that you have to kind of weigh whatever the expectation of a game basically doing a kutaragi and breaking the fourth dimension versus being a fun, playable, enjoyable title for what you pay for it.
And this brings us to our pick of the week.
Pick of the week!
Which just so happens to be Ratchet and Clank Future Tales of Ratchet and Clank Future. Tools of Destruction.
Wow, that was a cool title.
There's a sub-game, and you heard it here first.
No,
Tales of Ratchet and Clank Future,
I was
Tales
going to
of
say
Ratchet
Tools,
and
and then I
Clank.
started to cough at the same time. It became this all new game. So go pick up that one if you can find it. If not, then you should get Tools of Destruction instead.
Isn't it if you beat the game like 3 times, you unlock it?
Yeah, it changes titles.
Yeah.
On the menu screen.
As I said in my review, it's a very good game. It does everything that the titles before it did, only better. It looks fantastic. It's the best looking game on the system. Trust me, I've seen every game on the system. It has a strong balance between gameplay versus storytelling. It's not overly difficult, but it does do a great job of progressing without making it feel like you're just going through the motions. And there's a lot to do even after you beat it. You can get new weapons, new items. You can get I hope I don't give too much away here, but you can get a golden Groovatron, which is an unlimited use Groovatron.
Nice.
Only costs you 2 million raritanium. First time you play through, by the way, you're only going to get about 50,000 raritanium, so good luck getting that one. And do you guys have anything to add?
Spoilers! Oh my god!
No,
Oh my god!
that wraps it up.
Ruined it.
Yeah.
It's a good
Can't
game.
play the game now.
Go get it. It's fun. And if you don't get it, then and you own a PS3, then you're not using your PS3 for what it was built for.
Mm-hmm.
Around the room. This is a feature we haven't had in a long time. People keep asking us to bring it back, so we're going to bring it back right now. Mr. Christopher Roper, what are you playing, listening to, reading, watching, whatever?
Well, Guitar Hero 3 came out yesterday, so I'm playing that. It can't beat Lou. And then I'm watching NBC on Thursday nights, so The Office and Scrubs. And I'm listening to, I just got the new Serge Tankian album, which is all right, and the Radiohead, which is all right. Nothing crazy music these days.
You also...
and I just got tickets to see Tool at the Bill Graham Civic Center.
For when?
So on, December 11th?
All right, and for those of you who don't know, who haven't been following, Chris is expecting his first child.
Mm-hmm.
Not him personally, but his wife.
Yeah.
But it will be theirs together.
I'm also expecting the
Well,
child.
looked like he was
not,
gaining
not
water.
physically.
But I just didn't want them to create this physical
I'm not
picture
Junior.
of-
Well, he's
yeah,
not retaining
exactly.
water or anything. But
Junior, I feel so heavy. And it could be any time this week, right?
It could be like right now. I could get a phone call right now.
But it
So-
would be hard to tell because you have your phone turned off.
No, but it's on vibrate.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So it could be this week, could be next week. And
the due
it's-
date is actually a week from tomorrow on
And you
Tuesday.
know that it is a girl.
Yes.
So for those of you who want to send Chris well wishes, go ahead.
Go ahead.
It's coming soon.
Do
And, the reason we're letting you know is, number one, so you can send him happy emails, and number two, if he just disappears for a few weeks, now you're going to know
And the
why.
site falls apart. It's not my fault.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's Jeff's fault.
Yeah.
There was
Right?
that period of time when there was a chance that I could have been the only editor on the PlayStation team.
Ryan
in the
was hoping
office.
that it was happening that week. 'cause
It's happened
Jeff
before.
was in London and Greg was on his
Getting married.
honeymoon.
believe me,
And
it happened
That-
last year when Jeremy had his kid and everybody went to like TGS, and I was like,
Who was
oh,
the one
great.
person?
I was
it
the
you?
one person for a week.
for all three channels.
Yeah, for a week.
I planned
Not
it.
Fun.
I planned it specifically for TGS too. What are you doing?
As some people know, I'm not much of a PC gamer, so I actually didn't get a chance to play Half-Life 2 when it was just on the PC.
Blasphemy.
So now that I know it is blasphemy, so now that I have Orange Box and I beat the original Half-Life
On PS2.
on PS2, it was
Right.
it was the only way that I can get it. So that's definitely not the ideal experience for Half-Life, but it's okay. I
Can't you
just
download
wanted
it from
to.
Steam?
I don't have a PC though. I'm a Mac person. Lay off. Anyway, so
Ryan, it's testy. Wait a second.
Touchy over the Mac.
because every time I say I'm a Mac person, I get some crud for it. I almost said a word that I cannot say anymore, so I'm glad that I caught myself. Anyway, so now that I'm playing Half-Life 2, I really enjoy it. It is just really a phenomenal game. It's fantastic, and that's just the original. I'm not even talking about episode 1 or 2. And as for shows, I don't know. Whatever's on when I'm eating dinner is generally what I watch. And I just have to say, and I know I'm going to get total flame for this, but I do not think Heroes is as good as everybody says it is. I'm not saying it's bad, and I definitely recognize the good qualities it has. But that being said, I think that it's just not like my friend who's really well read on this stuff. He told me
He's
a
a
story.
Heroes expert.
He's just a Heroes expert.
Okay.
No, he told me that at one point when and I do not know if this is true. This is just going by his account. But the creator, when he was like discussing with his team about like the possible like powers and cool things that these heroes could do, he was like, "Yeah, and there should be this guy who can like control magnetism or something. Wouldn't that be awesome?" And they're like, "Dude, you can't do that. There's a guy who can do that. You cannot put that in the show because that is too." So like the guy just like the powers. I hate their powers. They're all the stupidest, most stereotypical powers, and that's important to me. Like nowadays with so many like super powered things on the market, you need at least a little bit of creativity, and it's just not there.
Your superpower should be the ability to take a 30-second segment and turn it into 5 minutes.
You already have it. Exactly. We call you Long Boy.
Jeff?
Oh God. Playing. Picked up Guitar Hero 3 as well. Jumped into that on my spare time. Been watching kind of a mix of different things. Right now, it's been NFL Network quite a bit, primarily like Playbook and some other shows there. I've been watching a few things on Discovery Channel too. So like Dirty Jobs, obviously, but there's one show called like Last One Standing, which is pretty cool because it takes like these 6 people and puts them in different cultures around the world. So like I think the first one they put them in with a tribe of like Brazilian headhunters and had them go through like their trials of like manhood, which is something that all these people had absolutely no clue what in the hell was going on. But it was kind of a pretty cool situation of having like these people obviously from the West thrown into situations that they have no concept of. It's kind of like a sociological experiment in a way. Reading, I just finished a book called One Dead in Attic. It's a thing
About
from
something dead in an attic.
Well, it's a Hurricane Katrina.
Yes. Weren't you reading that around E3 time?
No. This is something different. This is actually a collection of pieces from 2 years from a guy from the Times-Picayune down there who was one of the first people back, and basically all of his pieces collected over 2 years. And it not only does it have like stories of people from the city and everything else, but also basically tells his story as being one of the first people there and him dealing with his psychological issues that start to develop because of it. So it was a pretty interesting book.
See, no one times Jeff. Everybody yells at me.
That's
He
because we
talks
already
at
know
length.
it's going to take forever when he starts talking.
To hell with you
I
guys.
mean, it's nice to have a lengthy piece. It's not like it's a bad thing.
It's nice. Okay. For me, I'm watching Dexter on Showtime Season 2. Great show. If you haven't seen it, please do. It's very, very good. Also, The Office, just like Chris. Watch that all the time. It's a great show. I watch Heroes as well. And I'm playing through the orange box. I haven't gotten to Portal yet. I'm the only one in the office who hasn't touched it beyond the 20. There you go. Beyond 20 seconds. So I really need to do that. But that's it. I'm not reading anything because words are for wimps.
For wimps.
Do you have any programming notes? Anything that the PlayStation owners, PS2, PSP, PS3 guys need to know about coming in the next week or two, coverage-wise, on your channels, Chris?
SmackDown review very, very soon on Thursday even. And Manhunt 2 review will be up tonight, which you'll probably see about the time this goes up.
Jeff, you're reviewing that one?
Yep.
And
For those people then, since it's coming out the same day, give us a 30-second being the key, rundown of what you think of Manhunt 2.
It's good, but it's not nearly as good as the original was. The original was a lot better, had a much better storyline, much better atmosphere. This one, it's okay, but it really doesn't fulfill like everything that Manhunt 2 could have been.
Sort of apes a lot from The Suffering, doesn't it, in terms of its story?
Yes. Well, there's a definite like a carryover, including just the initial level, which feels ripped directly from The Suffering, and then it just kind of fishtails into a convoluted story. Even when you,
the story is basically the same thing, though, right? Did you or did you not kill your wife?
No. There's elements. There's.
But that's in there.
No, that is in
Okay.
there. That is in there, but that is not the primary part of the plot. It's a lot about mind control and secret, like an organization that's trying to do things with personality manipulation and subjects and all these other things. But the way that it's developed and the way that it even like plays out, you're just sitting there going like, well, not only have I heard and seen this before in like tons of things, I mean, it's almost like the Manchurian Candidate thrown into a video game, but not nearly as well done as
4.9.
the original title. So,
But you still thought it was pretty decent.
yeah, no, it is a good game. The way that they managed to draw out some of the elements of it are pretty creative. The deaths are censored, and that is probably one of the largest things that some people, or especially fans of the first one, will kind of sit back and go, why is this so blatantly restrained, especially considering that in the first game you had a character walking around with his genitals showing and now
a pig head
on,
Yeah.
and now you've got like all these color shifted executions, so you're sitting there kind of
And now he's on
wondering
the
what's going on with
PlayStation
that.
team. Anyway,
Damn it, Ryan.
let's take us out with a song. Let's do it.
Do
It's time to go.
It's him.
Let's do it.
Yeah, that'll be me this week because Ryan's been doing quite a bit, and so is Greg. I thought I'd step in with a classic.
That's good. Is it a classic?
You know what?
Let me see what it is.
It is a classic. If you all happen to know little Marvin Gaye, you might recognize
Go ahead and hit us
tune.
with it. This is
Hit
Jeff
it.
Haynes doing a little Jeff and Gay.
Hit it.
Do it. Sony said it's time to debate. PS3 and PS2 plus PSP, so don't be late. You know we've got to find a way to talk the topic of the day. Beyond. You know we'll cover Sony news.
Time for some news.
Rook, Ryan, Jeremy, and I will give our views.
Greg too when he's here.
You know we'll give you all our say on all the games you need to play. Pick of the week for a quick sneak peek. Don't give me Wii or a 360. 360. You need not fear. Come along and hear Podcast Beyond. Podcast Beyond. Podcast Beyond. Podcast Beyond. Oh, Podcast Beyond. Oh, you got to get that Podcast Beyond.
We'll see you next.
That was a different ending, right?
Happy Halloween. We'll see you next week.